Catherine Kolkaba was born on December 8, 1944, in Cleveland, Ohio. From a young age, Catherine had a passion for nursing. She attended St. Luke's Hospital School of Nursing and received her diploma in 1965. She graduated from the Master's in Science of Nursing program at Francis Payne Bolton School of Nursing at Case Western University in 1987. Dr. Kolkaba continued her education and received her Ph.D. in nursing and Certificate of Authority Clinical Nursing Specialist in 1997. A turning point for Catherine happened while watching the movie E.T. She felt uncomfortable watching the friendly alien hooked up to all the equipment and how frightened he seemed. This was the moment where she realized the importance of comfort in the nursing profession. Since that moment, she has become an internationally recognized nurse theorist for her work in comfort theory. Today, she works to marry nursing theory with practice through research, consulting, and teaching in the Faculty of Nursing at the University of Akron in Ohio.
Isn't that lovely? All right, so can we have a great UNB welcome for Catherine Kolkaba? Welcome!
Thank you!
It's so exciting to have you here.
Miranda, thank you so much for having me. Man, it feels good to be here in Fredericton, New Brunswick.
Okay, so Catherine, for those who are unfamiliar with the theory, would you be able to explain to us exactly what comfort theory actually is?
Oh my. It's a bit of a big explanation, but I think we can break it down into a few pieces.
Okay.
So I think the most important thing for students to know is comfort can mean a variety of things. And when I first kind of got interested in comfort theory, I had to do a lot of research. So one of the things I learned doing my research was that comfort is actually experienced holistically. It happens through the whole body, and it can be related to a whole bunch of different variables. Another thing that's important to know about comfort is that people can cope with it in different ways. And some people have self-comforting strategies that are positive, and some people have ones that are negative. Anybody that's ever had an emotional eating pizza knows what I'm talking about. Chocolate too? Yeah?
Yeah. That's key.
Other things about comfort that are really important to know is that when your comfort is increased, your life outcomes can really be increased too. So,
Okay.
yeah, it has a lot of positive influence on our lives.
Wow.
One of the things that you need to know is that comfort can be experienced in terms of ease, transcendence, and relief. Okay? Those are really important, and those make up the top part of the taxonomic structure, the grid. I think we're going to show one later. Okay? The other thing that's really important to note is there are 4 environments where you can experience comfort. One of them, of course, is physical comfort, things like pain. Another one is psychological. Anybody that's been under a lot of emotional stress knows that that can be really uncomforting. Okay? So you can have comfort in terms of psychology. And then you can also have socio-cultural comfort. People of different cultures being immersed into other areas, they sometimes feel uncomfortable. And the last one is environmental. So imagine somebody with a tsunami. Okay, their environment is really altered and their comfort level suffers because of it.
Oh, Catherine, is there anything else that you should share with the students here about comfort theory?
Well, there's one thing we haven't talked about yet, and that's the way that nurses can inject comforting techniques into their own practice. I think it's really important for nurses to realize that they're doing this already. It's an intuitive practice. Nurses are very good at comforting their patients. But when we look at the research, I think it's really helpful to kind of break that down into different categories. So there's 3 different types of nursing interventions. The first one that everybody's pretty familiar with is technical. So that's things like medications.
Yes.
Providing general care to your patients, IVs, all those kind of technical nursing tasks that we're all familiar with. So it's really important, and it can affect your client's comfort for sure. The 2 areas that I really like to focus on are coaching and what I call comfort food for the soul. And they can be time consuming. And these are the comforting techniques that we really need to have to fight for time to be able to do them, because they really do make a difference to our patients. So coaching, as you can imagine, is kind of more of a counseling role. It involves therapeutic listening and helping clients make decisions, and can be very motivating and comforting. The other thing is comfort food for the soul. And I think everybody's probably heard of a nurse that had a wow moment, okay? Those nurses that people can just not forget. What are some of the things that they do? Any ideas? What do you think, Miranda? What do these special nurses do?
Well, I had an experience once. I won't go into detail, but I was very sick. And I don't know, she comforted me. She rubbed my back, she told me it was okay, and it was a whole other level of nursing. I tell everyone about that all the time.
Yeah, you can't forget her, right? That's a classic wow moment. So things like rubbing backs, or providing a listening ear, or helping a child make a telephone call to a parent that they miss. These are all things that we can do as nurses that are incredibly therapeutic and comforting for our clients. So that's one way that you can think about comforting. When you do all of those things together, the patient outcome is absolutely amazing. And that's what comfort theory is all about.
Wow, that's great.
Yeah.
So it sounds to me like health facilities really need to embrace this comfort theory.
Absolutely, Miranda, absolutely. And they have a lot to gain from using comfort theory in their facilities. You see, when a patient's comfort is enhanced, that leads the patient to do something with what we call in research, health-seeking behaviors. And when somebody's very comfortable, they're more inclined to seek out positive health-seeking behaviors. That has to do with the way they think and they feel about their healthcare, their bodies, their self-esteem, whether or not they think they are able to do something and manage a health concern well. That's all related to health-seeking behavior. It can also be external and have to do with the socio-cultural environment, politics and funding and things like that. But all in all, health-seeking behavior is really correlated well with improved comfort. But where it really gets interesting is the outcomes that are available for institutions. So somebody has enhanced comfort, they decide on having some good health-seeking behaviors, and this kicks back at the institutional level as being institutional integrity. The facilities that embrace comfort theory, they are getting awards and they are seeing financial gains like you would have believed. So what we need to do right now, comfort theory isn't interjected into all of our facilities worldwide, but I hope that in the future we can get there someday because it's a win-win situation for everybody.
Okay, so is there any research happening here?
Yeah, and that's something that we really need to build on. I mean, I've done the research to support my theory, and there are certain hospitals that they're doing mini studies on units and things. They're using the documentation to prove what's happening on the units. That's really important. But this is all happening at a fairly small level right now. And what I envision is the future where it's totally embraced and we can have some large-scale studies that really prove the outcomes that we're seeing. Yeah, there's a hospital in Mount Sinai, you've probably heard of it, in New York City. They embrace comfort theory wholeheartedly. They're seeing effects on their bottom line financially at the hospital, and they're also seeing some really good patient outcomes. Things like hospital stays are being cut down in length, and patients are feeling really good about their comfort. So that's one example of some research. Another hospital, the South New Hampshire Medical Center, they've embraced comfort theory, and actually shortly after they embraced comfort theory, they were awarded magnet status, which is kind of the gold star of health facilities worldwide. So yeah, that's really great. Yeah, it shows that it works. We just need to get behind it and prove it a little further.
So can you maybe talk about how different levels of nursing can be applied to your theory?
Okay, so like how a nurse manager or hospital administration might use it? Absolutely. See, the one thing I really love about this theory is that it can be applied in so many different places. You know, any aspect of nursing, management, institutions, people in the government can take a look at it and understand it. Your administrators with the union. Yeah, it can literally apply to anybody. Another thing that I really, really want the future of nursing to embrace is documenting your comfort interventions. We have to write about them so that the people that look at our charts and are evaluating our practice can see what we're actually doing through comfort therapy. Okay? In order for people to understand the effects of what we do, we need to be documenting it so we can prove it. That kind of plays into the research piece. Okay? Now, your question was about different levels of nursing. So, a nurse manager, I think here it's really important to discuss the comfort of nurses too. We've been, all along in this interview, we've been addressing the needs of our patients, but the comfort of nurses is really important to acknowledge as well. I know of one unit. Now, I can't quite remember which hospital it was in, but I know that this unit, their nurse manager, their leadership, had all the nurses join in a meeting, and they brainstormed a wish list for their unit. Things that they wanted to make their work life more comfortable. Okay? And this unit, they actually got funding from the hospital. Okay? So it didn't cost the nurses anything. It didn't come out of the unit's budget. It was just agreed upon that the hospital would fund a certain number of these wish list items. And it made the morale on the unit boom. Okay? So nursing comfort for nurses is really important too. Another thing a nurse manager can do is encourage a unit to use that grid that we talked about and to include it in the regular paperwork that happens. Another thing they can do is recognize that things like coaching and things like comfort food for the soul take a lot of time. So that's going to affect your workload. If you want nurses to really be embracing these techniques, you need to give them the time to do it. Okay? Now, one more level. I won't talk about everything, but I'll talk about one more. Hospital administration. Okay? They like to say comfort's important to us, but they need to really show us that they're prepared to get behind this motion.
Wow. Well, thank you so much, Catherine. It was very nice having you on our show today.
Thank you, Miranda. It's been lovely talking with you today.
Can we all give her a round of applause?
Thank you, Ruby.
Good afternoon, ladies. It's so nice to have you here today.
Thank you for having us.
So, okay, so you're here to critique her theory. So, as I know, there are strengths and weaknesses. So who would like to start to mention, let's start with the strengths.
Strengths of the comfort theory is that it is easy to read, clear, and concise. This makes it easier for others to understand and put the theory to use. Another strength would be focusing on what Catherine calls wow moments. These moments are an essential part of the theory. For example, a patient is going to remember the back rub or the warm blanket you brought them over your technique for hanging an IV bag. The final strength is in relation to resources available. Catherine has developed her own website, www.thecomfortline.com. This website provides the framework of the theory, questionnaires, guidelines, and additional resources to be able to apply the theory.
So what's your take on the weaknesses?
Yes, Miranda. My first concern about the comfort theory is that Catherine focuses so much on documentation. With a healthcare system that is often working short-staffed and with many tasks to complete in one shift, I don't think documenting comfort interventions would be a nurse's number one priority when they have so many other things to get done. If administration needs to see success rates through documentation, how can these results be seen if realistically the documentation isn't getting done? So ultimately that is my first concern about her theory. My second concern is that if I enter a patient's room having read previous comfort suggestions, my comforting interaction may be compromised and it may not come off as natural because every nurse has a different approach on how to provide efficient comforting measures. Those are my two concerns. Other than that, I think her theory is very well developed and would be very effective for nurses.
So I think that's all we have for today. Unfortunately, we're running out of time, even though you're all very interesting, and I think we can all agree. Okay, so can we give them a big round of applause? Thank you very much.
Thank you for having us.
Okay, UMB, unfortunately, that's the end of our show tonight. But I am going to welcome Catherine to the stage one more time. Round of applause. Okay, so, Catherine, do you want to introduce our show for the next week?
Oh my goodness, Miranda, I'd love to. Okay, UMB, make sure you tune in next week for Jessica Webster's Theory of Non-Compliance. Remember, keep it comforting.